got to talk about The Split.
Nick, wake up!
One of the worst scenes probably I've ever seen in my life.
Wake up! And all these savages are gonna be massacred.
Now, when you think splitting someone in half, you're thinking of a certain thing. Double it, and then flip it upside down.
Earth's mightiest heroes pulled us apart like cotton candy.
Like a lot of movies have split hamburger style, but this is the first movie that split hot dog style.
Smells gruesome.
What's that? Not decapitation. What's that called?
Disadulation.
Is that true?
No.
Why do you even go to college then if you don't know this kind of stuff?
You dumb imbecile!
Don't hurl insults at Chicory.
I don't know. I haven't had a lot of patients who were cleaved in twain, John.
Well, we need to send you out west. Welcome back, movie listeners. My name is John, and I'm a filmmaker.
My name is Matt, and I'm a doctor. The movie list is a list of 100 movies that I have never seen before. John put this list together for me so that I could appreciate the art that's been put out there that I missed along the way. Today is a very special episode, though, John. It is an episode that's the first one chosen by our Patreon members over at the Turtle Club. This week, we are going over Bone Tomahawk.
Bone Tomahawk. It's also the first movie that both of us are going into cold, which is pretty cool. Both of us are completely blind going into that. It's been fun for me. I get to experience what it's like for you every week. Honestly, I'm a little jealous.
It's the best, dude.
Isn't it? I even got in some extra hours at urgent care. I was basically being a doctor. So yeah, I actually was giving them your name. And so hopefully you don't get your license revoked. But I think we're safe. I think we're good.
Frowned upon.
Yeah, I mean, I watched this movie first and just basically gave everybody tinctures of opium. So very low risk there. I think we should be good.
You're going to have great patient reviews.
Definitely. They're going to love me. They actually, one guy specifically won't stop calling me. So I don't know. We should look into that. But yeah, Davey the Human over on Patreon was the one who put this forward. He was actually our first A-lister. So just to explain that, Turtle Club members are broken up into the A-list and our regular Turtle Club members. And the A-list are the special elite class that get to actually elect movies every now and again. I think we're going to do every 10 episodes where they're actually going to get to elect something that we cover. Davey the Human put forward Bone Tomahawk and was unquestioned.
Right. And I only get to pick one in every 10. So
that's right. It's like
you're in pretty good company.
It puts you on the same level as one of the hosts of the show. So that's pretty good. I mean, that's a pretty good discount. So if you guys want to jump in on that fun, check us out on Patreon. And you get to force us to sit through this kind of madness. After watching this movie, maybe I understand why everyone was afraid to question Davey the Human. It was very Davey. It was very Davey inhuman thing to do to make us watch this movie. But no, honestly, great movie. Very, very good movie. I'm really excited about this.
I literally applauded at the end of this movie.
Wow.
I clapped.
You were by yourself?
No, I'm not a psychopath.
I just imagine you in your room by yourself.
Dude, Shia LaBeouf style.
Honestly, that would be fun. Okay, got it. You were with a group of people? You watched this movie with other humans? Okay.
I watched this with my father.
Davey.
I didn't know.
What have you done? What have you done? Yeah, we got to put this off the top. Speaking of fathers, we have the mom rating. This is like a 12 on the mom rating. Do not watch this movie with your mom. All right, the lawyers will be involved. Reverse CPS, is that a thing? Like, can your parents call CPS on you? So it's basically elder abuse, depending on how old your parents are. Honestly, even if your parents are like 60 or 50, it's probably still elder abuse. It
was intense.
Yeah, it was intense.
Yeah. I mean, for those of you who have seen this movie,
yes,
you know what we're talking about.
You know what's coming.
Gracious. Yeah, that scene was brutal.
Yeah, well, we're really going to split this movie in half and just really get into all the innards of it. But if you haven't seen it, let me catch you up on what Bone Tomahawk is all about.
Bone Tomahawk follows Sheriff Franklin Hunt, his aging deputy Chicory, the sharply dressed gunslinger John Bruder, and the injured rancher Arthur O'Dwyer, as they set out to rescue Samantha O'Dwyer and Deputy Nick after they're kidnapped by a mysterious tribe living deep in the wilderness.
You're afraid of your own kind?
They're not my kind. They're a spoiled bloodline of inbred animals who rape and eat their own mothers.
What begins as a classic Western rescue mission slowly transforms into a survival horror as the group realizes they're facing something far more terrifying than ordinary outlaws. Along the way, the film explores courage, sacrifice, and loyalty, building quiet character moments before delivering one of the most shocking finales ever seen in a modern Western.
Bonesaw is ready!
Bonesaw.
So every time we say Bone Tomahawk, that's what I think. Just because
Get you for 3
Spider-Man
minutes.
2 minutes later.
Later. That's the second time we've done this reference
I
in
know.
like 3 episodes, and so it's gonna keep coming.
His
Maybe
hands
that's
are
a-
down like this. You're right.
Maybe it's a regular thing, just putting Macho Man Randy Savage, aka Bonesaw.
What if we had a Randy Savage like Easter egg in every single episode?
I
We
would
should
love
start doing
that. All right, we'll get to work on it. Matt, what were your other than Bonesaw? What was your big takeaways from Bone Tomahawk, your first watch, sir?
So I like Westerns, apparently.
Hmm.
I didn't know this about myself until we started this list. But I think, dare I say, I thought this is one of my favorites for like 99% of the movie.
I think I know the 1%, but continue.
Yeah, that one I'm gonna have nightmares about. But
Is that why you're growing? Is that why you're growing the mustache? Are you trying to go like Doc
yeah,
Holliday a little bit?
I'm trying to be Kurt Russell. That's what I'm trying to do.
Matt,
But I
I'm
can't grow
sorry,
a
buddy.
beard.
I'm not sure that's in the cards for you, man. I love you. I'm not. Maybe a trip to Turkey.
Some for hair transplants on my face.
Yeah, I'd be one. I'd be one to transplant some for you. But yeah, buddy, I'm
Yeah.
not sure if all natural if that's in the cards for you, pal.
It is not.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, all of this is just bald. I don't even shave.
I don't either.
But yeah, so I mean, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid was our first Western that we did on
Yep.
the list.
Yeah.
And I freaking love that movie.
Yeah.
And then this being our second Western,
What about
I-
Dust Till Dawn? Do you consider that a Western? It's not really anything. It takes place in Mexico.
it's its own thing.
Yeah, it is its own thing.
It's like 4 movies all in one. And
this
one of them's
is
Home
the-
Yeah, but so I really enjoy. I like the kind of there's a crisis in your little shanty town, and then you get your posse together, and then you got gunslingers who each have their own little specialties, and
yeah.
I don't know. I loved it. This movie, I think, built some of the richest characters I think that we've had. The way that they build them is sneaky and phenomenal.
Hmm.
So, you've got like Mr. Bruder, for instance.
Yeah.
When they introduce his character,
Matthew Fox.
Matthew Fox, of
Solid.
course.
Yeah.
It's a pretty like low key setting where he just kind of moseys in, all white suit, very put together, very straight laced.
Right.
He goes and has a very like a lofty conversation with the pianist in that bar, which is hilarious, which I guess we'll get into later. But so he's clearly very intelligent, just the way that he speaks. And then you have kind of when they're building the posse, the way that he talks about his experience, where they're talking about going to fight these Indians, and he says, "I've killed more Indians than all of you put together."
Right.
And somebody says to him, "Well, that's an ugly boast," and he says, "Not a boast, just a fact," which is fleshing out this character of his as somebody who's he's not prideful about the fact that he has had that experience. He has his
Right.
own backstory, which he lets you know later, but um, he's merely stating, I am capable. I'm going to come with you to help you fight this enemy
Right.
um, because I have the skill. So he's honorable in his own way. He's just the freaking man. And they flesh him out in these little pieces of, which I guess is the only way you can really do that in storytelling. But
Right.
they do it so rapidly in this movie with so many characters. And he's just, I think, the easiest example of how they built this character up so rapidly to seem so complete of the character. Just
Yeah.
freaking phenomenal. And then my other sort of big takeaway from this movie is like the way that they use their sort of sound design in this movie is some of the most masterful sort of not just the technique, not just how like technically well they made the sound, but how they used it throughout the movie. And I don't know if there's another term for that in movies. That's not really my area, but um whenever they show the protagonist in this movie trying to be stealthy, they are so loud.
Yeah.
They're like the loudest thing. Like you hear every little squeak of their leather, every little jingle of their belt buckles.
Mm.
With the guy with the crutch when he's sneaking through that little gulch,
Yep.
by himself with his
Yeah.
crutch
Yeah.
toward the end of the movie, and he realizes this is where everything went off the rails. Every time he puts his crutch down, it's like cartoonishly loud. It sounds
Right.
like you're banging on an empty barrel with a mallet. Like no crutch has ever sounded that booming, but they use it to such great effect. Like it puts you on such edge as the audience. Like they're trying to sneak, but every little thing they do is so loud.
Right.
And, in the movie, every time anybody's trying to sneak anywhere, they're always spotted by an invisible adversary. And so
Yep.
you're like hyper aware of the fact that there are eyes everywhere. You have to, and you're trying to sneak through, and everything's just so noisy. And I love it. It
Yep.
makes you so uneasy. And then just like the little throat whistles that all the troglodytes have.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, it was very confusing at first. Because they don't explain that until toward the end when you have
Right.
Mr. O'Dwyer figure that whole thing out.
Right.
But they just make these eerie wails
Yeah.
and screams.
Yeah.
And you don't understand how that could, like, I thought they were blowing horns when they
Yeah.
first introduced those sounds.
Right.
But then you see like the one with the tusks or whatever, just like roar. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
so this is a fantasy movie. But then they actually explain it,
Right.
in the movie. But there are moments before they explain it to you where they'll be in combat with the cave dwellers and they'll shoot them and they make out this little like squeak that doesn't sound like anything. Like what?
Right.
Why are they making that weird little hoot when they get
Right.
shot? It's
Right.
because their vocal cords have been replaced with a whistle.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. It's a cool detail, because sometimes those movies, when they introduce those fantastical elements, it's just like, it's a movie. Yeah, it's suspension of disbelief. This movie actually did a really good job of backing those things up with the backstory individually and sometimes even physically. Like you're saying, those little like those trach pieces of bone, which maybe we can get into later. Be really interested to know kind of the science behind that. But yeah, all really, really good notes. The sound design is dead on. S. Craig Zoller was the director. His first directorial debut. He had written like a number of screenplays over the year, was kind of a career screenwriter. Actually had written some novels as well. Sort of the story of how Kurt Russell got involved was actually based on one of his novels that Kurt Russell had read called Wraiths of the Broken Land. And apparently it's more elaborate and even it's like far more brutal than this movie is. And so I think Kurt knew what he was getting into when he signed up for this. But they had sort of planned it to be the director debut for Zoller. And so they had it was shot very indie, shot in 21 days. mostly around the same location in Southern California. $1.8 million budget, which is extremely low for a Western genre film. With some really good names in it. So super, super impressive what they were able to do. Not only with the incredible cast, with the locations, it being a period piece, Western, the special effects and the stunts, and the script, I think, carries a lot of it. Fantastic script. Crazy thing, I read that the first draft of the script is what we see on screen, which is so rare. It's basically unheard of in the film industry in general. So basically, the first time we sat down and wrote it, that's what we see. So it's pretty amazing. You hit on it a little bit, but this movie squeezes in more genres than any other movie we've had on the list, including Dusk Till Dawn, I think. Off the start, it's a traditional Western, right? Cowboys and Indians. That's pretty much laid out immediately. As it goes on, though, it's sort of more of like a modern moral Western, right? Like a 3:10 to Yuma of we have to do this journey and we have to do it for moral reasons. But it throughout is structurally a horror movie. The way that the monster being, the troglodytes are introduced at the very beginning is structurally horror. That's how horror begins, right? Tease the monster, tease the beast, but don't show them, right? Somebody dies. Think at the very beginning of Jurassic Park, right? From that sense. That's how the troglodytes are introduced. So there's this unseen scary monster, even down to the sound design, like the cracks on the old wood. That's a horror trope, right? That's to make you aware, just like they would be aware in those situations. Obviously, spoiler alert, it turns into Italian cannibal, right? Which is a whole subgenre of films that, especially in like the 70s and 80s, that was just crazy stuff. Cannibal Holocaust, you've probably heard of, is like the most famous one. It was like that one scene, but the whole movie, right? They were just gore and cannibals and crazy special effects. And this kind of turned into one of those movies. But of all of that, it dawned on me, Bone Tomahawk is actually a romance, if you break it down. Because at its core, I mean, it's essentially this guy, Mr. O'Dwyer, who is going across the desert with a broken leg. He's traveling miles and miles. It seems to break again, like with every step. Screw The Notebook. Bone Tomahawk's one of the best romances I've ever seen. All of this for his wife. I mean, what the heck did Ryan Gosling do? Right? He freaking built a house. This guy like crawled across the desert with his legs, like bones sticking out, climbed up, somehow defeated all these Indians to rescue his wife. And so this is a great romance. Let me just put a disclaimer out there. Men, do not watch this movie with your wives. But still, it's a great romance.
Why they always wet themselves?
This movie has an insane opening. And I know we're just coming off a Baby Driver here.
Yeah.
Which I still think has the top spot for openers.
I agree. That one's hard to beat.
But this one just goes completely like hog wild on the very first scene. It starts with a man having his throat slit.
The first second is
badly slit, by the way.
Yes. Like poorly. Like not just like it's rough, but like he does a bad job of it.
Yeah, it's a dull knife. Takes several attempts.
Right.
And then the guy who does it, Purvis, I believe is his name.
Yeah, David Arquette.
Looks to his partner and says, "Why do they always wet themselves?" Which is a messed up thing to ask. And then he nearly gets shot by another guy with a botched throat slitting.
Yep.
Who survived. And then he says he had a lot of blood. An unusual amount. So as his justification for why he thought he had
Right.
successfully killed the other guy.
Right.
I think to say he had an unusual amount is
Right.
hilarious in its own
Right.
way. And then
Yeah.
his partner says he had the same amount as everybody else.
Yeah. Well, I mean, these guys are obviously idiots. He says the line, my uncle had an acquaintance with a man who used to be a doctor, which I like because it introduces, we know we're in the Old West, right? But it introduces the concept of not only that everybody out here is very poorly educated, but that doctors are like a rare thing. Right. So it's like if you know somebody who knows somebody who used to be a doctor, then you're doing pretty good. You're running in good circles.
Right. You're up there in the social
Right.
hierarchy.
Right.
Um, but
Which
in
means
these
like
guys,
I'm doing great, by the way. I have a
yeah,
podcast with a
you're
doctor. What
crushing
is
it.
that? Dude, I'm crushing it.
And I barely exist.
You're just ethereal. You're just in the clouds.
Um, so then these guys find themselves, they hear horses coming, so they hightail it out of there, and they're seeing all these, bear skulls and wolf skulls, and like, is this a sign? Like, keep out
Right.
and blah blah blah. And then they hear one of their screams. Yeah, and
Pretty
and then
good, right?
Purvis says, "Did you hear that?" And his partner says, "It's a gust." And then Purvis says, "It's an awfully musical gust." And his partner goes, "And?" He says, "It's ominous." And then one of the best lines in the movie, his partner says, "This is not the time for womanly imagining." It just instantly makes you hate the guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, it gives you this, and then he refers to himself as
Right.
being, when he says, "This is not the concern of civilized men," and then he scratches himself with his gun and spits. Like, they just couldn't make this guy seem like more of a dullard.
Yeah, I love that they refer to themselves as civilized. And then to make it even nastier, David Arquette especially has the teeth. He has the decaying teeth, which brings me to my first "Oh Yeah, Right." We're gonna have a lot of "Oh Yeah, Rights" in this episode, by the way. This is a pretty "Oh Yeah, Right" full movie. It's a great script, but it's full of "Oh Yeah, Rights." My first "Oh Yeah, Right" is once they hear the horse steps, the horses coming, and they start running up the hill, and he turns, he goes, "We got maybe 15 minutes," right? And he's got the nasty teeth. He gets up the hill, and the very next shot, crystal clean teeth. He flossed, brushed, Invisalign. He probably put the whitening strips on there.
Wow.
Beautiful teeth. So
I didn't even
you're
know
telling
Crest
me,
existed in the 1890s.
well, probably. So he found it. Some old Native American like spell that he put together, crunched and teeth whitened because
I
his
did
teeth
not
look
notice
great
that.
in the very next shot. So he had time to brush his teeth running away from the horses. Oh yeah, right. First one of the episode.
Wow. I missed that one.
Yeah,
That's along the lines of the vanishing mustache and Butch and Sundance.
Hey, maybe that's just a tradition of the westerns.
Maybe so.
But yeah, so
Maybe it's a
obviously
callback.
the first dullard gets killed by our troglodytes, which, by the way, I might be an idiot. Is troglodyte something I'm just supposed to know? I had to Google that word. Are we just supposed to know what that means?
Yes.
All right. Moving on.
No, it's. I mean, they do kind of explain
Like,
it. They
but
say
is that
it's-
like a
yeah,
common? Like, I didn't know what that word is.
I think I knew it because there was a dorm on my campus where I went to undergrad where they referred to the tenants as troglodytes.
Cool, Matt. You just really had to shove the knife in that. I didn't go to college. I get it. You're smarter than me. Okay.
No, I'm not. Simply more educated.
Oh,
There's
gross.
a difference.
So yeah, so they're talking about the troglodytes.
Why is that gross? But it is.
It is.
It's not my fault.
We're introduced to all of our characters. So kind of moving up, we have the O'Dwyers. So Samantha and Arthur O'Dwyer, Patrick Wilson, and Lily Simmons. Patrick Wilson has a very badly broken leg. What part of his leg?
Tibia.
Tibia. And what is that?
That's the weight. So you got three major leg bones. You got your humerus, your tibia and your fibula. The fibula is not really a weight-bearing bone,
Yep.
but the tibia is.
Got it.
So he broke that one. So that's in the lower leg. It's the big one in your lower leg.
Okay.
Your shin bone,
ouch.
essentially.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking, the shin. So that's incredibly painful. We'll get more into talking about that later. But ouch, double ouch. Chicory, one of my favorite characters. I got a lot of things to say about Chicory. Richard Jenkins plays Old Man Chicory, who is fantastic. Makes a great intro.
Ooh, that tea smells gruesome.
It's soup.
Oh. You think I could have some?
Oh man, I love Richard Jenkins in this role because honestly, I didn't realize for like 30 minutes that was Richard Jenkins. They did such a good job. How would you know? The dad and stepdads. I mean, Stepbrothers.
Whoa.
Yep, that's Richard Jenkins. Yeah, he did such a good job with the makeup, his voice.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, that's freaking wild.
Yeah, and I love that he kind of gave himself like a hoarse voice, which I think was like because he's talking all the time. He's literally talked his voice hoarse, which is great. We meet John Bruder. You talked about the competent John Bruder, played by the great Matthew Fox. He's got a pretty fun intro scene where he comes into the saloon.
Dude, so funny. He goes over to that pianist. And the guy's sleeping on the piano. And then Matthew Fox walks up to him and he goes, "Good evening." He doesn't even pick up his head. And then he asks, because the little sign says 1 song's 3 cents, 2 songs is 6 cents, and 3 songs is 10 cents. And he says, "Why is 3 more expensive? Shouldn't you make it cheaper if they hire you for more, commission more songs?"
Right.
And he says, "Well, I get tired after 2." So the third one costs more. And he's like, "That doesn't make any sense." He's like, "Well, commission a song or leave." It's such a great, like, the dialogue is just perfect. It's just witty banter and funny stuff the whole way through.
Yep, really well written. And then of course we get the legendary Kurt Russell. I mean, what's a Western? What's a true Western without Kurt Russell in it? And so I was thinking about it, actually. We mentioned last week Kurt Russell because I know we've done The Thing, which is essential Kurt Russell. I think that this should be essential Kurt Russell now after seeing this one. We have Big Trouble in Little China, Stargate, and then Tombstone down the line.
He's in Stargate?
Yeah. Yeah,
I did not know
he's
that.
the guy. Yeah, he's what's his name? He's the main guy that MacGyver ended up playing in the series. And so
and Sky High. Let us not forget.
we shall. Oh well, I'm trying my best to forget. Let me take a sip here to try to forget. But yeah, and so it's interesting that you're working backwards from Bone Tomahawk to Tombstone later on, but once we get there, you'll really be able to appreciate it. But an interesting fact about that, we actually have Quentin Tarantino to thank for one of the best parts of this movie. And that is Kurt Russell's mustache and beard. Because as they were going into production, he actually was supposed to be clean-shaven. He saw him as a clean-shaven sheriff, but he had already signed on to do The Hateful Eight. So he did this movie, wrapped on a Saturday, went into prep for Hateful Eight on a Monday, has the same mustache, same beard, and it really is just, it adds so much just grittiness and awesome to the movie. So
I love that.
Me
what
too.
a cool little crossover. It's the same beard and mustache.
Same beard and mustache that we get in both. And honestly, this is a bold take. I like this one better. I think this is a better Western than Hateful Eight. Come at me, comment section.
I haven't seen Hateful Eight, but I've almost watched it like 4 times. So
we'll see if somebody on the Turtle Club makes us watch it. Wait, should we watch it again? Meh. Maybe I'll change my opinion later on, but right now, Bone Tomahawk is higher on the Western hierarchy. That would be fun. Maybe eventually, once we've gone through all these, we'll do like a Western
Dude,
a
I would
Western
love
tier
it.
list.
Dude, I have a little Western trivia in my head that will blow
Yeah?
your mind. And it's a movie I bet you haven't seen
Okay, let's hear it.
called Yojimbo.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's it's actually a samurai film, but I
Okay.
believe it was the motif that they used to build modern Westerns.
I gotcha, okay.
Um, it's a great movie. I've watched
Is
it.
is it
I
is
would
it, uh, is it Kurosawa?
I don't know. It's
Let me
super
look it up.
old, black and white, but
Yojimbo?
Yojimbo.
Yojimbo.
Yeah,
Yojimbo.
it's a good movie. We should watch it at some point and review it.
Okay.
It's worth your time.
1961 by Akira Kurosawa. Okay,
There you go, dude.
nice, Matt. Look
Called
at
it,
you,
dude.
dude, getting all criterion on us. All
Mhm.
right,
I
Matt
had a
has seen
life
a
at one
movie.
point.
But it still floors me that that's what you chose to watch. You went, like, back to, like, 1960s samurai movies, and you didn't watch, like, just normal movies. You're like, "Nah, Jurassic Park, throw that out.
No.
I'm gonna go with" what is it called? Like, Migogo what's it
Yojimbo.
called? Yojimbo. Strange choice.
I don't know. It's a good movie. If you haven't watched it, watch it. Join us for other episodes. Good. It'll be a good one day.
All right.
Indians? Looks like it, but I don't reckon. I'll be there in about 20 minutes.
You gonna go talk to Mr. O'Dwyer?
Yeah. You know who did this?
There's only one group that hunts with these.
Who?
They don't have a name.
What kind of tribe doesn't have a name?
One that doesn't have a language. Cave dwellers.
One thing I love about this movie is that the vernacular that they use seems to be very time period appropriate. So they're using the terminology of the time, the vernacular that they're supposed to be saying. They refer to the telescope that Mr. Bruder has as the German.
Yeah.
And that is a 19th century colloquialism for that specific style of silver mounted telescope.
Cool.
And so that was something that in that time period, if you referred to the German, people would know you're talking about a telescope. And that was true for a lot of sort of optical equipment at that period in time. German craftsmanship has always been pretty exceptional throughout history, but any sort of like optical device or things using lenses, they were predominantly German made. And so that telescope was known to be a very high quality piece of gear, which is why Mr. Bruder's super protective of the thing.
Right.
And he doesn't, in this story, he doesn't let Chicory handle the thing until he's actually seen him operate.
Right.
Which I don't
Yeah.
blame him for,
Right.
for
Right.
that.
Seriously. Yeah. I mean, Chicory, I like that scene. I like that we get to see him operate as a nice, character moment to him to see that he's actually pretty competent. But man, he is so dumb. You know, just as a character, the stuff he says is so stupid. I already had like the soup line at the beginning. Some of my favorite lines that he has in the movie. Honestly, he just has some of the best written lines in any movie like ever.
I agree.
So some of my favorite is Mr. Bruder so this is after Bruder just kills two Mexicans that were just approaching their camp.
Mr. Bruder just educated two Mexicans on the meaning of manifest destiny.
Which is a great line. When they're finding out Bruder's backstory and why does he hate Indians so much? He asks them, why do you hate them so much?
You should ask my mother and my sisters.
Never met him.
It's so funny. Obviously, they were killed, and he's like, "Well, I never met him before." And then probably the funniest one to me is in the end when they're being captured by the troglodytes, and they try to force them the flask that's actually full of opium, and he tastes it and he spits it out, and he goes,
Gotta taste better than people.
Yeah, I like the line where he's eating the soup at the beginning of the movie. He says,
This tastes like corn.
It's corn chowder.
Oh. Then things are lining up.
And then
Uh,
maybe my favorite is right in that same segment of the movie. He's talking about when Purvis, you saw him burying something, and he
yeah.
says, "Now it is the official opinion of the backup deputy that his manner was suspicious."
He's right though, but
He's right.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
just such a funny way to
it's so
say it.
funny. It's so funny. He's a very well-written character, very funny. Um, I also like that he other than the surgery scene, he doesn't really have a redeeming like, there was no redeeming moment, right? And there was actually, like I was waiting for it to see, like, at the end, he's actually gonna save them because he's actually super smart. He's not, he's an idiot. Uh, and they stay that throughout. Other than his ability, because you give some backstory that he was in the Civil War, and he was obviously a surgeon, a war surgeon of some kind, and, to be able to see him perform that surgery, on Mr.
Yeah,
O'Dwyer
set
or
set the
Mr.
bone. Yeah.
O'Dwyer, set the bone, shows some competence there, but still pretty stupid. So that seems pretty brutal. Um, yeah, I mean, something I like, one of the lines he says in that is when they're talking about, amputating somebody, and then the gangrene still sets in, and they end up just dying, and they die over several days. And the sheriff says, that must be one of the worst ways to die. And he says, the worst. And then, and
Mhm.
about 30 minutes later in the movie says, hold my beer.
Wrong. Wrong. I think his whole purpose in the movie is just to make you love him,
Mhm.
which it does really well.
Yeah, it's true.
I think by the end of the movie, in our eyes as the audience, he is the most valuable piece on the board.
Sure.
Um, just from an emotional standpoint, which
Yeah.
I love. I love that they're able to do that.
Yeah.
And uh, yeah, I mean, he also serves as the comic relief, which I think in this movie you really need.
Right.
Partly because it helps with that pacing I was talking about.
Yeah.
Like, they have that whole sequence during the chase sort of segment of the movie where they're hunting these troglodytes down, where he's just talking about how much he loves being in the bath. And he's like, "How can I read a book in the bath? Like, it's so boring and sitting there for hours, but there's
Right.
nothing that feels better.
Right.
I keep trying to read these books and I keep ruining
Right. Right.
it."
Yeah.
And then Sheriff Hunt's like, "Well, why don't you get yourself a music stand and then
Yeah.
put it just outside the tub and then have a
Right.
towel to dry your fingers?" He's like, "You're a genius." And that's just such a great little section of dialogue
Yeah.
'cause, I don't know, it makes you fall in love with Chicory as a character.
Yeah.
And then when they put Chicory in danger, you're like, "Oh, no.
Right. You
Like,
really care.
he can't help himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Right.
gotta save Chicory."
Right. Which
He's
is
the
the mark of a
sweetest.
good horror movie at least, is you have to set up enough lines. You have to set up enough to care about the characters so that when the characters are really in danger, you care.
Yeah,
Another
great
fun,
point.
I always like doing the movie crossover. Another fun crossover I feel like that this movie is A New Hope. The princess is kidnapped. And so you have Luke, who is, Mr. O'Dwyer, the whiny one who is the one really pushing to go get him. The sheriff is Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? The old wise one who is going to end up sacrificing himself in the end, but knows he has to lead them through this. You have Mr. Bruder, who is Han Solo. He's the hired gun. He's the cool one, right? And then, of course, you have Chicory is C-3PO,
Uh-huh.
who is the comic relief. And actually, I got in a conversation with somebody the other day. Was talking about. I asked who your favorite Star Wars character is, and they said C-3PO. And I was like, C-3PO is the worst character. And they had just such a convincing. They're saying C-3PO is one of the only ones who is present throughout the entire story. He is the comic relief throughout the entire story. And that he's really is kind of the glue that from Anakin all the way to Rey, he's the one that ties it all together. And I was like, that's actually a fantastic point. They literally convinced me that C-3PO is a great character. And
Yeah.
Chicory is the C-3PO of the Bone Tomahawk universe. And it's all in the desert too. So.
And the troglodytes are the R2-D2s.
I think the troglodyte's got to be the the Tusken Raiders.
Tusken Raiders. I was just saying,
they actually have tusks.
That's fair, and they actually like honk like that. I was just thinking like R2D2 can only like squeak and chirp like they can.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, your answer's so much better. I'm embarrassed. I think they're Ewoks.
Chewbacca.
Yeah, and they're the Chewbaccas of the story.
Yeah. By the way, Mr. Bruder's horse is Chewbacca. But anyway, I digress.
Fair enough. So they also during this scene, we talk a lot about Chekhov's gun in this podcast.
Yep.
This movie has what I like to call Chekhov's dud, which is the dynamite. Right? They talk about the dynamite on a couple of occasions, and then you've got Matthew Fox's character, Mr. Bruder. He's like, all right, I'm gonna blow up this dynamite, and I'm taking as many of these suckers with me as I can. And then he just gets tomahawked to death. Right. And they never go back for the dynamite. No dynamite is ever seen in this movie. You don't see a stick of dynamite.
Right.
You don't hear an explosion. Like,
it's mentioned several times.
They talk about dynamite.
Yeah.
So Chekhov's dud, the dynamite. I thought the dynamite was going to be a big. I thought it was going to be the finisher. I thought it was going to be the climax of the movie.
Let's be honest. It's the budget. The budget wouldn't allow for it. So, by the way, for any of our listeners at home, if you don't know Chekhov's gun, it's basically just a writing tool that if you see a gun in the first act, it's going to go off in Act 3. So Matt didn't feel the need to explain that because not everybody's as educated as you are, Matt. Okay, not everybody is. I'm so educated. So you just assume everyone's like, you didn't go to distinguished medical schools.
I'm never going to live this down. This is what our friendship is like.
It's true. I have a list.
This is going to come up.
I have a list of things. I'm petty. There's literally certain things I'm saving to bring up on the podcast when they're most effective. You probably know some of them that I'm thinking of too.
I do. I know the one. I know the one.
It'll come eventually. Patrick Wilson as Arthur O'Dwyer is fantastic in this. I really loved is one of my favorite film roles I've seen him in. I think one of my favorite scenes is when he is I guess redoing the bandage on his leg, his tibia. Sorry, not as educated as you are, and had to pour the alcohol over it just to clean it. Starts cursing, starts throwing out all kinds of obscenities, and then looks up to heaven and says, "Sorry." He apologizes to God after cursing his name, which was pretty funny. But I think his role in the movie is a powerful one, not just in the sense that he's like the emotional driving force of it, but also he is such a good reminder, a brutal reminder of pain as a theme throughout the movie. Right. So really you are never comfortable in this movie. Because you mentioned before, like with Chicory and with the sheriff and the fun dialogue and the witty lines and stuff, it could just kind of turn into like a buddy Western movie, right? He's like, oh, I want to hang out with these guys and go camping. So it's his leg and how it like seems to crack every time he steps on it wrong. That agony of a broken leg, I think it's just a constant reminder of pain as a motif in this.
That's great. A lot of times they do things in the movie, like specifically thinking of the scene where Sheriff Hunt gets knocked unconscious.
Yeah.
Like they seem to, the troglodytes seem to do everything in the most painful way they can. Like when they try to knock him unconscious, they take his like a stick and they shove it in his mouth and they whack him.
Dude, I thought he was dead after that.
Yeah. So did I.
I've never seen anyone knock anyone out like that in a movie before.
Right. Yeah, me neither. Right. I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah.
But again, kind of shifting back to actors in this movie, Matthew Fox knocks this out of the park.
Yeah.
It's hard for me not to kind of value this as maybe his best role he's done.
Right.
Granted, I mean, I came up on Lost I used to come to your house and watch Lost. I don't know
Literally.
if you remember those days.
Yep.
But I mean, he was so good in Lost.
Yep.
But he's so good. I just don't understand. I feel like he should be in everything. Like
Yeah.
I haven't seen him do anything where I was like, well, that's kind of sucked. Like everything he does is phenomenal. So why is he not bigger? Why don't you see more of him?
So he actually took a break from acting for a while. So I mean, he was, I wouldn't say this is the height of his career. I would say to some degree things were slowing down for him. But We Are Marshall is another one I remember that he was in with McConaughey. That was pretty good. And obviously Lost, and so he had some momentum. I saw an interview with him that he said that he had a bucket list of things he wanted to do. Like he wanted to have a number one or an Emmy nominated TV show, did that. He wanted to have, work with an Academy Award winner, did that. And he wanted to have a Western. And so he said that, he had knocked out a lot of the things on his bucket list and that he realized the time that he was spending away from his family and just didn't feel like it was worth it. So I think the last 10 years or so has taken a break from acting. Since has started acting again some. I think he's in a show called The Madison, I want to say is what it is. Maybe another Western. So haven't checked that out yet. But yeah, he's making a comeback. So, but
Cool.
whenever actors do that, I always respect it, man. They're
Same.
humans. They're
I always think Rick Moranis.
Exactly.
Yep. What a guy, Rick Moranis.
Yep. And of any of us, I'm sure he gets residuals all the time from Lost and things like that. So it's like any of us, if you had that thing where you had a big load of money come through and then you have residual checks coming out and then you have small kids at home, take the time, take a decade off and raise your kids and then go back and do whatever it is. I respect it. I like it. Makes me like him more, honestly. He's a human.
Yeah. I respect that a lot. And I was going to make a joke about how I didn't even know Rick Moranis was in Lost. But I felt like the window closed,
No, it didn't. It didn't. He's like, hi, I'm the gatekeeper. Are you the keymaster? That would have been a great twist ending if they opened the vault and Lost. He's like, Charlie, you're going to die, brother. He's like, I'm the gatekeeper. Are you the keymaster?
I don't think we're using enough fabric softener.
That's
from Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves.
Not as good as the kids.
Of course it's not.
Or the baby. Or
Baby
what happened
great.
with that, by the way? It's Honey, I blew up, or Honey, I grew the baby, or something like it. They changed the name.
They did.
It used to be called Honey, I Blew Up the Baby.
Honey, I Blew Up the Baby. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And then
now it's like Honey, the Baby is huge.
Right. I'm gonna Google it. What is it called now? Honey, I Blew Up the Baby. Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. Okay. I mean, I guess that's a little less aggressive, but it is Honey, I Blew Up the Baby, right?
Right. That's what I knew it as.
Now it's the kid. He's a kid. He's 2 years old, but he's a kid, apparently. Come on, Hollywood. Stop with the woke virus.
Don't do it, Kim.
Nick, wake up!
Don't do this. Don't do this.
Wake up! All these savages are gonna be massacred. The cavalry's riding right now from Gatesville.
Earth's mightiest heroes pulled us apart like cotton candy.
All right, Matt. We can't avoid it anymore. We've been talking around it. We've been splitting hairs, trying to lead up to it. But we got to talk about the split. It's one of the worst scenes probably I've ever seen in my life. It won't kind of talk you guys through it if you haven't seen it already. Probably skip it. No. If you have seen it, I'm sorry. But the cannibals they're really kind of fighting over this guy's legs, and they both win. And it just, I think it was a good reminder. It was a good reminder to me that we need to not be so judgmental of other cultures that are different from ours, right? Maybe the way that the stuff they eat is a little bit different from us, okay? But we all have our traditions. One of my favorite traditions is on Thanksgiving.
Splitting the wishbone.
We all split the wishbone, right? And whoever wins gets the bigger piece. They get to carve the turkey and they get first pick. Maybe that's their version of splitting the wishbone. Is just
And they get a
splitting
wish.
is splitting Nick in half. And their wish came true because they get to eat him.
Now, when you think splitting someone in half, you're thinking of a certain thing. Double it. And then flip it upside down.
Exactly. Basically, imagine in T2 Terminator, when the liquid Terminator splits in half, now flip him upside down. That's essentially what's happening. Because a lot of movies have split this way, right? Not like a lot of movies have split hamburger style, but this is the first movie that split hot dog style. I haven't seen a movie quite do that. There's been a number of movies where you see people split in half this way, but not quite down the middle. They were real symmetrical with it.
No, you do get a lot of down the middle.
Yeah,
but if you do, it's always top to bottom. People get
dude. Yeah, or more Star Wars, Darth Maul, right? Cut in half.
Yeah, of course. No, hamburger style is popular. I mean,
Hamburger
even
style
Signs has a hamburger style.
That's right. Signs
what I mean?
and Scary Movie 4. I think they both have hamburger style.
Right.
What's that? Not decapitation. What's that called? Where they're splitting in half?
Disadulation.
Is that true?
I don't know. Yeah.
Why do you even go to college then if you don't know this kind of stuff?
I don't know that there is
You
a
idiot.
word for that.
You idiot.
Anyways, I don't know. I haven't had a lot of patients who were cleaved in twain, John.
Well, we need to send you out west.
Anyways, but sometimes in movies someone will get sliced vertically. But this guy is vertically from the bum up.
From the bum down.
That's not a good way to go.
It's not great.
Yeah,
one of the worst ways possibly to go. Honestly, though, in fairness, I think the worst scene in Bone Tomahawk isn't just about gore. I think it's also about Kurt Russell refusing to look away. I thought that was one of the strongest points to, his character, is the fact that it's the worst thing you could possibly see. Everybody else is shying away. He's looking at it and he's talking him through it. Even if the last thing was like a lie, he had to give him hope. He was in there with him. I think that shows how strong of a person and how brave of a man that he really is. I thought that was actually a really cool point.
that is awesome. Because he says, like, what else would you want to hear in a moment like that aside from you'll be avenged?
Yeah.
Which is just a freaking cool thing to say.
Right.
Everybody has their motivations in this movie. And for a lot of our good guys, it's justice in their own eyes and in their own way.
Right.
So, for Chicory, it's duty. It's like I'm here specifically for emergencies. And this is an emergency. I'm not here to stay in town and twiddle my thumbs.
Right.
And so he's taking that duty very seriously. And Chicory has nothing to lose, is another thing.
Right.
For Sheriff Hunt, it's duty in another way. Like, he's responsible for the town. So it's, I guess, maybe responsibility over duty for him.
Right.
And then you have Mr. Bruder, who he's doing it because he feels like it's the right thing to do because he got Miss O'Dwyer involved. So it's sort of a debt, in a sense. He's got a debt to pay.
Right.
And he has the most to offer. So it's kind of both of those things. And then for Mr. O'Dwyer, it's love, basically.
Right.
And his duty to his wife. So
right.
Yeah, everybody has their own unique motivations, and that's just part of the world building and the the character development. Again, I'm so impressed by the characters that they were able to build in this movie,
Right.
and I think that's a big part of it. You can completely understand the motivation behind every character.
Yep.
Um, y- and I think that's a rarity, actually.
Mm.
I don't know that I've been able to look and understand the motivations behind characters so well. Like one of my favorite examples of this is the Alien series.
Mm.
Like you can completely understand
Mm.
Ripley's motivation in Alien and then in Aliens. And that's in Aliens, I think her character is one of the best written female protagonists in anything that's ever been done.
Yeah.
Because her motivation is so clear and it is so
Right.
believable. And she's not written like I think a lot of sort of modern female characters are, um, where they're basically Superman, but as a woman. Like
Yep.
she's Ripley is very feminine character done, I think, the right way.
Yeah.
And we may get some vitriol over something like that, but I don't think you can really argue it.
No.
Um, I think she's a perfect character. Anyways, I digress. My whole point is I think the characters are so well written, their motivations are clear,
Yeah.
freaking perfect.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting the way that Miss O'Dwyer responded once they were there. It
Mm.
almost was anger, right? And she just out of her anger and frustration through all of this, she started calling them idiots, right? So these are guys who have risked their lives. They probably won't go home to their families. They've gone through literal hell. Mr. Bruder died trying to save, which just quick little, oh yeah, right, on that, that he was dying and that that there's literal troglodyte cannibals all around them and they're just gonna stop and have a cigar. Oh yeah, right. But anyway, it's just nonstop sacrifice and pain getting to her. And then she responds with saying, "You guys are idiots." But then she expands that into actually, I think, a pretty good point of saying that the West, the Western expansion, it won't work because it's nothing but idiots. We kind of hit on this at the top that of the lack of doctors. It 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 really was. If you go down the history of the manifest destiny and the Western expansion, a lot of them were criminals. A lot of them were people who had joined the Civil War and just didn't know how to do anything else. And so they're like, oh, they're going to go out there and they're going to give me endless land. And they were kind of tricked to going out west of thinking that it was just going to be this promised land. And it was desert with not a lot of resources and not a lot of water. And then just shoved in the middle with these native cultures who won't and will never mesh with their cultures. And so just saying how those things, shove against each other, they're idiots. That's why the West wouldn't work and why it was really such a disaster and ended the way it did.
I think in kind of this section of the movie where you have, they just kind of leave Mr. O'Dwyer behind because he can't keep up anymore.
Right.
And like if they try to keep his pace, everybody's going to die. So they have to kind of leave him behind. But in a funky way, he ends up being their only hope of surviving, which I think is really cool. Like the
Right.
plot wouldn't have worked if it didn't play out that way.
Right.
So they decide to sleep during the daytime, and then kind of move when it's dark, just to kind of preserve their energy because it's too hot to move during the day or whatever.
Right.
But one of my oh yeah rights comes in. You see, Mr. O'Dwyer kind of pop up off the ground at the end of the movie after his tincture of opium induced haze.
Right.
Not a speck of sunburn on the man.
That's what you're concerned about with the sunburn.
You know me. It's kind of my job to be concerned about the sunburn,
It is. Yeah.
So he would have been lobster red by the time he woke up. But his skin was
You're not
fine.
concerned with the fact that like gangrene was probably setting in. They just reset his bone and then he just went on to walk several miles.
I'm just talking, if you're laying on the ground
That's what you're
for
concerned about.
8 hours in the
Got it.
blistering desert sun, you're
Yeah.
going to wake up looking like this?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Oh, yeah, right. Next up in this section of the movie, my oh, yeah, right list. When they mix the tincture of opium with the whiskey.
Yep.
And they kind of trick the troglodytes into drinking it, and then they kind of mosey off. They look over to Miss O'Dwyer and they're like, so what's the damage? She's like, this one's dead. This one's going to sleep for a long time, but he's going to be fine. And this one's going to be hardly phased. Yeah, right. You think she can accurately judge that by the number of glugs they take from a whiskey flask?
She was smart and they were
Do you know how much you have to deal with opium to know that? That is crazy.
Well, I have had, in the last week of me acting as a doctor, I've had a lot of experience, and it is my professional opinion as the backup deputy that she is correct.
I've studied medicine for a very long time.
Yeah.
And if you gave me a vial of opium with all the modern medical knowledge, and I prescribe these drugs from time to time.
Right.
I used them a lot back in my hospital days.
Yeah.
I would have no clue. Like, okay, maybe this much will do it. I don't know. How would she know the lethal dose by swallows?
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I love that
Anyway.
in that moment that when they do it, Chicory says, come on, you dumb imbecile. Which is so perfect coming from him. Who's one of the dumbest guys
Right.
in any movie I can remember.
Kind of playing off your point before with Miss O'Dwyer and how she talks to them like they're idiots, morons.
Right.
That's her kind of with her fangs out, her teeth are out, she's biting.
Right.
As she has the right to do, right? Because they all got captured.
Yeah.
But then she also is like very sweet when Chicory has his kind of flea circus moment, which is such a real, genuine moment where he's reminiscing about his deceased wife and sort of a little spat that they had talking about if the fleas in the flea circus were real and then she said, whose flea circus was it? And he, gives the name of the flea circus. And she's like, now a lot of flea circuses are fake, but I know for a fact that they use real fleas. And he's like, I knew it. I knew it was real.
Yeah.
And it's just such a tender moment. And she winks at the sheriff,
Right.
such a beautiful moment.
Right.
And then you get one more just sweet human connection between our protagonists toward the end once we realize that, the sheriff is kind of done for. So he's going to kind of make his last stand and try to polish off presumably the last three troglodytes before kind of the end of the movie. And he says, I'm done for. I'm going to die. So, put the repeater in my hand. And then when Chicory walks up to him, he tells him, say goodbye to my wife. I'll say hello to yours.
Yeah.
And that's just such a beautiful human moment between old friends,
Right.
who are in a scenario like that, where they've just been thrust into this chaos and held together, and they triumph in the end. But at great cost.
Yeah. It's a great line. I going back to the flea thing for a second, it reminded me of something, and I actually think that there's a lot of interesting parallels here. There's a similar type monologue in Jurassic Park. So in Jurassic Park, when Hammond is talking about, he remembers as a boy seeing the flea circus and how they can imagine, can you see the fleas, mommy? Can you see the fleas? I can see the fleas, right? And how he dreamed of making a place like that into a reality. And then Ellie Sattler, of course, comes back he's like, I just wanted to create something like that where I could control it. And she says, it was the control that was the illusion, right? That you never had control of this place. It's nature. And so I think going back to her idiot conversation, it ties into that a little bit of saying that trying to civilize or create civilization around these tribes that had been there for thousands of years. And to quote her, Ellie from Jurassic Park, they don't know what century they're in. And they will defend themselves violently if necessary, right? So obviously for them, the civilized people, they're savages, right? And obviously you could see like cannibalism's bad and all this thing, but to an extent, these troglodytes have existed in these caves and they've almost become something animalistic and what they've created in their culture. And they're not playing by your rules. And so to try to attach civilization to these societies that have existed here for thousands of years before we step foot, on this soil, reminded me actually to a degree of that scene in Jurassic Park and him talking about the flea circus. So I thought it was an interesting tie-in.
That's a great tie-in.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
I doubt anyone has ever thought of that until you. You're the most Jurassic Park loving guy I've ever seen.
That's actually true. If anybody's going to make a Jurassic Park tie-in. One more cool tie-in. That whole cave set was the same set that they shot Iron Man in. So when Iron Man is building his suit.
Really?
Yeah, that's the same cave. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, they finally break out. They're on their way back. And something I noticed was when Chicory picks up the rock, I guess to have as like a weapon as they're walking. And then he hears the 2 gunshots and he drops the rock. So a couple things there.
Three gunshots.
3 gunshots, yeah. A couple things there. I think, there's a possibility that he took out 3 more troglodytes. There's also a possibility that one of the last things he did with those shots was to shoot the pregnant woman that they saw. And maybe even himself, the sheriff, right? His last act you could look at it of brutality of he's going to take out these people, the last of them, so that it never affects his town. Or you could even look at it as a kindness of obviously these women were being kept in just brutal, inhumane, torturous conditions. Ending their lives in that situation would be a kindness to them.
Right.
Or at least how he saw it.
When Miss O'Dwyer, like before you see the situation with your own eyes, she says, yeah, there's 2 women who were both pregnant and they're both blind and crippled.
Right.
Like once you realize how brutal these troglodytes are, like you realize before you see what that means, you know, like, so, from the sheriff's perspective, I mean, that's a possibility. I like to believe that he killed the last 3 males that were presumably there.
Right.
And, problem solved as far as their town is concerned. And, that, the return trip home is safe for the 3 people who survive.
Right.
But I do think it could be on brand for the sheriff to have, as a mercy, basically killed those 2 women and himself.
Right.
Because he was a goner anyways, and the way he was dying was not pleasant, by the way.
No, they had shoved a flask inside of him that just burned.
And then shot him through the chest. So he was about to basically drown in his own chest.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
Essentially, or have a tension pneumothorax, which will just crush his heart and lungs.
Right.
So he was going out a bad way.
Yeah.
But I like to think that he did what he said he was going to do because that's what he said he was going to do.
Right.
And that's his character, I think.
Right. Yeah.
But I do think, if he realized that they may not come before he was going to die, there's a possibility he could have taken the way out that you're describing.
Right. Yeah.
So it's certainly an interesting idea.
Right. Well, so the other part of that is obviously as they're crossing the Indian burial grounds yet again, which is an obvious parallel to Pet Cemetery, by the way. The Indian burial grounds in Pet Cemetery and the Indian burial grounds in this are like exactly the same. But as they're crossing that cemetery and he picks up the rock, I guess to have his protection. And then once he hears the gunshots and he drops the rock and they continue home. It made me think of something. So my wife and I years ago went to Hawaii. And as we were driving around, we drove by a post office. And outside of the post office, we see this huge pile of rocks that obviously did not go there naturally. So we were eating next door, and I asked the person, I was like, "Hey, what's up with the pile of rocks?" And they say, "Oh, so a lot of people come to Hawaii and want to bring a rock home as a souvenir. And when they do, there's dozens of stories online of people having horrible luck. Horrible things happen to them. Their like businesses fall apart. They get into bankruptcy, financial issue. People get sick. All these kind of terrible things. And they look it up, and there's all kinds of correlations with these rocks from Hawaii. So they mail them back. So like hundreds of people are getting rocks from Hawaii, getting bad luck and mailing the rocks back to Hawaii because because obviously Hawaii, it's sacred. Their land is sacred to them. So if you take land from Hawaii, it's a curse. It's an omen, essentially, is how they see it. So the people will send the rocks back to Hawaii as we will let that stay as your land so that we don't have to carry this darkness on us anymore. So that's kind of what it reminded me of. When he dropped that rock, he's like, this rock stays here. It can't come home with me. I thought that was pretty interesting.
You want to know a crazy story from my life?
Yeah.
I went on a cruise one time. It was our senior trip from high school, which you and I had parted ways academically at that point. Because
you don't have to say how many ways you have to say that I didn't go to college. All right, I got a GED. You think you're better than me? You think you're better than me?
He had moved to high schools. All right,
but saying we had parted ways academically is the funniest way that you could possibly say that. Oh boy! All right, continue.
Anyhow,
continue, doctor.
I bought a conch shell when I was, I guess in the Bahamas someplace. And I came home from my cruise and I woke up the next morning to my mom screaming. And I came out of my bedroom and a pipe had burst under our sink and had flooded the main floor of our house and the basement below it. Like completely destroyed them. And then that conch shell killed my whole family.
This was this is the early script of Marcel the Shell.
No, the first part of that's true. I don't think I still have the conch shell. I didn't mail it back. I was just like, well, that was all the bad luck this thing had.
Right.
And now I can't have bad luck anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, guys, just make sure to, if you go to any kind of, indigenous ancient place, only
careful what you take home.
Only come back with what you came in with. So I think that's just good advice across the board.
That's good advice. So real quick, medically speaking,
would love to.
Talking about the leg.
Right. Obviously, you went to a lot of college. You're very well educated. So tell us.
I went to
educate us.
Freaking ages of school.
So much.
You wouldn't believe it, honestly. I doubt you could count as high as the number of years I went to school.
All right, continue, doctor.
Anyways, so Mr. O'Dwyer has an open fracture. So anytime you have a broken bone and then there's skin open above it, whether you know if that bone popped out or whatever, if there's a chance that the skin can communicate all the way down to that fracture, that's an open fracture. And in medicine, that's a big freaking deal.
Yeah.
So anybody who has an open fracture, you got to clean that wound out extensively. Sometimes you got to cut out tissue that's either dead or damaged beyond repair or contaminated. And then we always give antibiotic for that because your risk of infection for that is quite high. And if the bone gets infected, it's a disaster.
Yep.
This movie happens in the late 1800s. I think around the 1890s is where it's supposed to take place. Penicillin, the first antibiotic, was discovered by Alexander Fleming in 1928. So we don't have antibiotics at the time of this movie. So the way that he damaged his leg was by falling off a roof, and he broke his tibia. So presumably the tibia either popped out or there was a laceration and a broken bone underneath. Who cares? It's an open fracture with a pretty high impact injury with a laceration of, based on what you can see in the movie, approximately 10 centimeters or so. That was presumably cleaned well and stitched closed. A wound of that size with that type of injury at that period in time without antibiotics, his risk of that becoming infected is probably somewhere around 20 to 40%, maybe as high as 50%, depending on how that wound happened, if it had dirt in it and things like that. So somewhere around 20 to 40%. So his chances of that thing getting infected are pretty darn freaking high. The first time he reveals the wound where he pours the alcohol, maybe before the episode where he pours the alcohol on it, I think the first time you see it, except for when he's in the bed,
Right.
it doesn't look like it's infected at that point. Like clinically, if I was to look at that, I'd say probably not infected from the skin anyways. The skin is not like bright red. It's violaceous or kind of purpley colored, which is consistent with him having damaged tissue. So anyhow, very high risk of infection, doesn't have antibiotics. So if that thing gets infected, he's kind of SOL unless they cut the leg off. And then still fair chances he dies. So if you're wondering, what are this guy's odds with a wound like that in this era? Got about a 60% chance of making it out with his leg, and maybe slightly better than that of making it out alive. So, and that's presuming everything went well.
Right. Which, I mean, like, besides the leg, he put a lot of stuff in his mouth, bone stuff that just came out of the trachea.
Yeah.
That was probably the worst part of it.
Yeah.
Which, I had mentioned earlier, his wife not being grateful. Once they finally got back together, she was like cordial at best. Like, this man had just like traversed across hell to get to her. He lets her out. She doesn't even look at him at first. They kind of like, oh, hey, what's up? How are you? They fist bump. And they're immediately like talking to the sheriff. Once they get out and they're walking, they go to kiss. I'm like, okay, maybe the adrenaline's worn off and they go to kiss. And she's like, oh, can you wipe your face off first? Like, she's like, here, how about a breath mint?
Right. Well, I mean, he has had someone's throat bone shoved in his mouth. So
That's fair.
I'll give that a
That's
pass.
fair. That's fair. Yeah. So maybe Ryan Gosling is kind of back on top once again because the throat bone. I'm not sure that the kissing in the rain.
I think throat bone is neutral because he used it to save her life. So
yeah,
still romantic actually.
It is. It just doesn't quite have the same impact of the Notebook.
Right. Now, the throat, the size of the throat bone, by the way, indicates it was implanted in adulthood. So unless they're swapping those out over time, they don't have a throat whistle until they're full grown.
Sick. Good to know.
So,
just if you're out there,
in case you're wondering,
you hear that. I'm not.
If you're like, hey, when did they have that? Were they children doing that? No, unless they did it multiple times throughout their lives, which probably not.
Yeah. We started this last week. I have some fun. Foreign movie names. So it's this Bone Tomahawk released internationally. Here was their version of the movie. My favorites. Japan is Tomahawk gunfighter versus cannibal tribe. Brazil, the missing woman, the cripple, and the troglodytes. Pretty literal. And then Thailand, breathing through the sun to hunt cannibals. So they really kind of went off they went kind of like, they were artistic.
Well, la-ti-da.
Yeah, breathing through the sun to hunt cannibals. All right. So, Davey, I appreciate the picks, man. I appreciate you electing that one. That was a good choice. If you guys want to jump in on the fun, another reminder, jump in on Patreon. If not, make sure if you haven't already, subscribe to us, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube. Come follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and make sure you're following around. We'll jump into ratings here. Matt, I'll go first if you'd like. Story, I have a 7. And I think I really push that up just because of the dialogue, right? So I look at story as, plot, character, dialogue. And so it's a little light on the plot. I think you have very strong characters. Some of the motivation was a little confusing to me at points. But the dialogue really makes up to it. I would say a 10 out of 10 dialogue. It's one of the best dialogue written movies we've done on the movie list, which is saying something because we have some freaking great movies. Rewatchability is a 3. I like recommending this movie. I've actually recommended this movie already to 2 people. But that's also kind of a prank because I'm just not going to tell them about that scene. They're going to have no idea what they're walking into, just like Davey did to us. We now pass that on down. It's like The Ring, basically. So we're just going to give them The Ring. And now you're cursed, person. Fun, I have it a 6. It was fun. Like I mentioned, it felt like kind of like a buddy film. I love Westerns. Kurt Russell's fantastic. Richard Jenkins is so good in this. But I mean, anytime you're splitting somebody down the middle from the legs, that takes it down a notch on the fun aspect of it. Emotional impact, I have it a 5. I did feel like some of the characters, in terms of like what they were going through, the pain, right? I would put behind the emotional side, I had empathy for their pain. It fell flat to me on the end, as far as the watching what O'Dwyer went through for his wife. And then it was just kind of like, oh, hey, thanks, dude. Fist bump, pound it. Especially it was set up so strong with like that letter. She really adored him. Like it was set up as just like a romance. And it just towards the end, it was just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever, dude. So that I would put it a 5. And then the filmmaking craft, I have it an 8. A few things here and there, but man, it is so well made, especially for $1.8 million. Zoller, well done, man. I'm going to go check out your other movies. Hopefully you keep making them. One quick little filmmaking thing I didn't mention that I thought was really cool, and I don't know if you noticed this, Matt, but throughout the movie, especially in the brutal scenes, there's no music. There's actually a shocking lack of music in this movie. There's a couple of tracks put throughout, but it's usually just kind of them walking across the desert. But really in the intense scene where a horror movie would actually, use music to emphasize something bad happening. The split in half scene, for example, no music. So that actually kind of, I feel like, emphasized it and put an exclamation mark on some of the big emotional parts. And so 8 out of 10 on filmmaking, that's a 29. That puts us in like almost 4-star category. So it's like a solid 3.5.
All right. So for me, I gave story a 6. It's a pretty straightforward story. It's a very good story. The rewatchability, I gave it a 5. My reasoning is that once you've seen it once, the violence is very easy to remember where it comes. Like you can see it coming a mile away. So
Right.
if you want to omit that one scene, this movie's actually quite rewatchable.
That's a good point.
Fun, I gave it a 7, just because the dialogue's so freaking good, and it's funny, pretty much start to finish. Even in the scenes where it's like more intense, if you omit again the most brutal of the scenes, the whole movie is a pretty good laugh. Emotional impact, I give it a 6. I will, again, because of some of the things I pointed out earlier, like say goodbye to my wife, I'll say hello to yours. Just how much they make you love Chicory and the fact that he survives at the end and then he drops the rock. I think out of trust in
The sheriff.
the sheriff.
Yeah.
Like he trusts that he did his job and he's trusted him the whole way through. He drops the rock out of faith that he did what he said he was going to do.
Right.
And that him dropping the rock is such a cherry on top of the movie, I think. It was so satisfying. The whole thing is so triumphant. I do agree that it would have been more satisfying if, like, for example, if he had maybe read it at the end, or they had implied that he had read it. Like, he already read it once, so I think
Right.
to a degree, reading it again would have felt weird. It was pretty
Right.
long.
Right.
But they
But it
could have
was-
at least
Yeah.
implied it somehow.
Chekhov's letter.
Yeah, Chekhov's letter. The dynamite would have been cool.
Maybe at the end, she just explodes.
And then for me, science realism, I gave it a 5. Most of the points are going to get docked for the little vocal cord implants, just because I think a tribe like that, trying to keep something like that sanitary and trying to operate on someone's airway,
Yeah.
with that primitive of technology, you're going to lose a lot of people.
Yep.
Same is true with injuring the eyes. That's going to cause a lot of problems.
Yep.
For most people. So, like, if you get an infection in your eye socket, that's a freaking gigantic deal medically. So, I've only ever seen it once in my career, and that's all I care to see. It's brutal if that happens. And so to have
Good to
people
know.
who have that, at baseline in a cave,
Yeah.
they're goners.
Yep.
Under those conditions. So, it's going to lose some points just for that. But overall, my score is a 29, which is the same as yours.
All right. So
So
we're
our
pretty
first-
aligned there.
Yeah, our first double blind, we have the same score.
The first double blind. Love it. All right. Well, there will be more to come, I'm sure. Hopefully it's not another torture movie next time. But honestly, if it has the same dialogue and characters as this one does, then that'll be quite all right. And if you guys are watching this far, you're part of that elite group. So we appreciate you. Why don't you guys just put...
Favorite Rick Moranis movie.
There
Right.
you go. Nice. Good one. Spaceballs is a... All right. I don't want to lead you. Yes. Much better. Favorite Rick Moranis in the comments. That way we know you watched it, and in context we'll understand, and we'll throw out our favorite quote, our favorite line from that movie. But we're gonna keep trudging along. So guys, thanks for jumping in, thanks for listening, and next week we're back to the normal movie list. We got some exciting stuff, some interviews, some more collab episodes coming up. So make sure you're subscribed and following along, and we're gonna keep plugging on the movie list. See you next time, guys.
So yeah.